How's it going, guys, and welcome back. This is going to be the in-depth guide for every single floor on the Maze of Tribulations and Star Ocean 2, the second story remake. So the first thing we need to know is how to actually get to this secret dungeon. Well, unlike in the previous version of this game, in the remake you actually have to complete the game first. You need to defeat the final boss of the game. Then after the credits, you have an option to save the game. Whichever file you decide to save over will get a little star. This is going to be your post-game save. Now, once you're back on the main menu, simply load up your post-game save with a little star on it, and here you'll notice you're back at the previous save point. On this save, however, you can go back to Expel, which is exactly where we need to go to find the dungeon. To do so, simply fast travel to Fun City. Once you're inside Fun City, go to the Battle Arena, walk right past the counter into the Colosseum, go round to the far side of the Colosseum and you'll notice there's an old man wearing green. Speak to this elderly gentleman and he'll give the option to go back to Expel. You'll soon wake up in Alia, which is the first town you visited. Leave the village and you'll notice you have access to your Synard, your flying ship. With this, you simply want to fly over to the west side of the map here in the desert and you'll find a pyramid structure. This is going to be the Maze of Tribulations, which is the Cave of Trials from the original. Let's head inside. Most of the floors are going to have puzzles involved to be able to advance to the next one, as well as a pretty tough boss fight at the end. Before we explain how to solve the puzzles on each floor, I'm also going to show you a map of the floor I've made here in Photoshop, with all of the chest locations and what's in each of the chests. This way we don't waste time in the video going around collecting them all, and you can just pick up whichever ones you're interested in. On the floors where there's something extra special in any of the chests, I will specifically point it out and we'll maybe even get it in the video. With that said, the first floor is just a bit of a warm-up. It doesn't really have a puzzle. All we need to do is walk around to the other side and pull the lever to open the door. Inside, we will fight a Dark Enchantress. We're not going to go too in-depth on how to defeat each boss, as that's going to depend massively on your team setup and what level you are, though we are going to do a bit of an overview for each boss. So the Dark Enchantress, as you can see, has 300,000 health points. She isn't weak to any elements, though you do need to take into account that her basic attacks can petrify you, so I would definitely recommend putting some sort of petrification nullifier on at least 2 to 3 of your characters to make sure your team doesn't get wiped out in this way. One of the first things you might notice against this boss also is that the evasion is very high. If you're still in the low level 100s, you're going to be missing a lot of attacks. So maybe even equip the Sword of Marvels, as it does have the passive effect of it never misses, is probably going to be worth it more than any of your more powerful weapons at this point. Anyway, once we defeat her, that is going to put an end to the first floor of the maze, as well as getting ourselves a second pair of bunny shoes, assuming you stole the first ones from Fun City. So definitely equip these onto your second melee damage character, and let's move on to the second floor. Also, it's worth reminding that there's no autosave in this dungeon, so I would recommend going back to the first floor every time to save the game. It can get a little bit tedious after a few floors, but still, it's better than dying and having to do it all over again. Okay, so now it is time for floor number 2. As you can see, these are the 3 chest locations and the contents of each of them. Floor number 2, it does actually have a puzzle. We need to rotate these statues in specific directions to open up the door to the boss fight. There's also an incredibly good hidden item in this floor, which is really cool, so we're going to be picking that up at the end just after the boss. We're going to be heading clockwise around the map, so the first statue we encounter is Sharon, and we want to make this one face east. If we continue heading down clockwise, we'll eventually encounter Milena statue. This one we want to make face north. Directly above the Milena statue, we'll find Luke. Luke needs to be looking south. Continue past the Milena statue to the right, and here we can find Felia. Felia needs to be facing west. Just a little bit further right, we'll find the Yuffie statue. Yuffie needs to be facing north. Heading north from the Yuffie statue and then going left into this side room, we'll find Christina. Christina also needs to be facing north. Then backtrack a little bit and we'll find the final statue, which is Lloyd, and Lloyd needs to be facing west. You know that you've done them correctly because you'll hear a little bit of a tingle sound, which is the door opening. So now we can head back to the start and fight the boss of this floor. This one isn't so much a boss as it is a group of just powerful mobs, really. For winning this fight, we'll get the first of the Seraphic Garbs, which is some of the best armor in the game. Not only do they have 400 defense, but they also have an effect that defense increases as health gets lower, as well as nullifying instant death. Now, before we head down to the third floor, this floor actually has a bit of a secret. As you can see, behind the stairs, there's another text we read, and this gives us a bit of a hint that between the Luke and Milena statue, there's a hidden item. So we head all the way down to the bottom part of this floor where we find Milena and Luke, which should be facing each other, and you notice you'll be able to investigate on the floor right between them. This is going to be a shield called the Star Guard, which is incredibly good. It retaliates with stars when hit by the physical attacks. This is similar to the Aeternus effect, that when you attack, you hit them with stars, except now you're hitting them as well when you take hits. But anyway, now we've picked that up, it is time to head down to the third floor. The first thing we want to pay attention to as soon as we get to the third floor of the dungeon is that there's a chest over here on the left hand side that we've highlighted that contains a ring of light speed. This is what used to be called the Slayer's Ring, which gives you 2 extra hits every single time you attack. Potentially the best ring on the game, so I would definitely recommend picking up at least that chest out of this room. With that said, the puzzle for this floor consists of stepping in every single room without stepping in the same one more than once. It's actually quite easy. Simply follow the pathway we've highlighted here in red, and this will allow you to go through every single room without repeating and end up back in the starting room where you can fight the boss. The boss of this room is definitely one of the easier ones. It's just a group of these enemies that can stop time, which can be annoying if you don't kill them quick enough, so I'd always recommend focusing everything on one at a time to make sure you're not getting constantly froze one time after another. All you're going to get for defeating this one is going to be a magic gumdrop. So that is it for floor number 3. Now it's time to move on to floor number 4. Okay, so on the 4th floor, there is a bunch of stuff we need to pay attention to. The first thing is going to be this circled chest down here that says Extinction. Extinction is actually going to be Leon's ultimate move, so make sure you definitely pick that one up. The trick to this room, as you'll see in just a second when we start actually playing through this, is that there are going to be a bunch of illusionary walls. That means fake walls you can walk straight through, so if there's any of the areas you think you can't access, just try walking straight through the wall. The next thing we definitely want to pick up is the second Seraphic Garb armor, which is all the way in the top right-hand side chest. Again, we can get there by just walking through the wall straight below it. Okay, so those are the important chests on this floor. We are going to pick up the ultimate extinction here just so you guys can see what I mean by walking through invisible walls. Now in this floor, you could directly just go to the main boss. That's all you have to do is walk through a fake wall. However, there's something I would definitely recommend doing first, and that's going all the way over here to the right-hand side and walking through this invisible wall right here that has a lever behind it. If we pull on this lever, it will open the door in the center of the floor. Once we've done that, we want to go in the door that we just opened, and here we'll get a chance to perform a song for the goddess of music or whatever it is. Choose a character that has the acoustic sense talent and a level 10 in music. You will get the mystical shamisen, which is a musical instrument. So now to face the boss, all we need to do is walk up to the top left-hand side of the floor, and then you can just walk straight through this wall and face the boss. This boss really isn't anything special, it's just an individual enemy, a Maya 32 with 305,000 health. He is resistant to all elements, so I would go for basic attacks. But yeah, there's nothing really gimmicky about this one, it's just a straight up fight. So once we defeat him, we won't actually get any reward for this boss fight, so it's time to move on to floor number 5. Okay, so things to notice on floor number 5 when it comes to chests. As you can see down here in pretty much the first room, if we take a right, we'll find another Ring of Lightspeed, and also another Seraphic Garb here in the far right-hand side top corner. Also, there is going to be another fake wall over there to the right if you wish to get to the Nectar and Fairy Ring. Okay, so let's jump into the floor itself. As soon as we start, we want to head north, and we are going to pick up the Ring of Lightspeed here in the gameplay just to make sure nobody forgets that. And then continue going up a little bit further, and here we'll have a quick cutscene. And the correct answers are Puffy and Beast, but honestly I've tried all the options and it doesn't really seem to make a difference, so it doesn't really matter. Then a fight will start, and these are phantom enemies, and unfortunately we only do 1 damage. So what we actually have to do here is escape from the battle, so as soon as the fight starts, simply run away, and this will proceed the floor. Anyway, after you have escaped from that battle, you want to take the long corridor all the way across to the right-hand side, and then go down until the next quest marker that you'll be able to see on the map, so you won't get lost. When you get here, Puffy will be under attack. Choose to help her out. Here we'll simply have to fight a few Dreamcasters. When we take them out, Puffy will run away. Now while running away, she'll actually drop the Phantom Slayer. Now this is A, important because it is the thing we need to defeat the enemy that we couldn't damage before, and B, it's actually going to be Chisato's best weapon. So if you have Chisato on the team, you definitely want to stick the Phantom Slayer on her. Now the reason this allows us to defeat the enemy from before is because it will defeat anything instantly that has Phantom in its name. And considering the enemy from before was a Phantom Salamander, this means we can instantly kill it in 1 attack if we are using the Phantom Slayer. And it also converts 50% of the damage into health, so it's actually an amazing weapon, and like I said, for Chisato, it's definitely the best way to go. So once we equip the Phantom Slayer, we want to take a left here to get the shortcut all the way back, and here we're going to advance until the first room, pretty much where we fought the Phantom Salamander for the first time, and then go 2 rooms to the right. Again, there'll be a quest marker on the map, so you won't really be able to get lost in here. Once you get there, just make sure the Phantom Slayer is equipped on one of your characters, and you'll notice you can one-shot this mini-boss. This Phantom Salamander will drop the Fire Orb. Once you have the Fire Orb, you can now open the door to get to the stairs down to floor number 6. So we're going to do that. We're simply going to walk all the way back around here, head to the south, and then to the right-hand side. But that is it for floor number 5. It is now time for floor number 6. Floor number 6 is actually very straightforward and not much to do in here. There's only 2 chests, one containing an antidote and the other the dream crown. And right in the middle of this floor, we can find Santa's secret shop. Now he's going to sell some pretty interesting items, including Santa's boots, the jewel of the frog, which will allow you to escape from the dungeon, go back to the first floor whenever you like, so you don't have to walk all the way around. And the tri-emblem. Now the tri-emblem is going to cost you 5 million, which is quite expensive, but it's actually a really good accessory. It's going to give you a bunch of stats, as well as making you immune to a few different elements. So if you have got the cash, I would definitely recommend picking up the tri-emblem at least. I would pick up one Jewel of the Frog just to have one, but there is actually going to be a teleporter at the end of this room to go back to the first floor, and from the first floor back to this one whenever you like. So now that we've done with our little shopping spree, it is time to solve the puzzle of this floor. That's actually very, very easy. All we need to do is examine this statue, and it should say there's a switch that if you press it, it will open the door to the boss. Now for me, the both times I've done this dungeon, it's been the one on the bottom right here, this statue just here. So I'm assuming it's always this one. If it's not, just examine the other statues and it will be one of these. Before we fight this boss, there's something very important I want to mention. That if you do have the Scumbag Slayer, you definitely want to equip it for this boss, as it will kill him in one hit. Now the Scumbag Slayer was unfortunately missable, as you did have to follow a few of these time-limited events back from the start of the game, with a guy that kept on getting lost, then you'd meet him in a new place, and then help him find his way again a few times, and at the end of that, you'd get the Scumbag Slayer. Now, if you do have the Scumbag Slayer, luckily you can defeat this boss in one single hit. But if you don't have it, don't worry, it's not that you can't defeat this boss, it's actually not too difficult. Just focus first on the Dreamcaster, and then on the Thieving Scum level 99. He has 320,000 health, as you can see, and he can actually poison you with his basic attack, so I definitely recommend sticking some sort of poison nullifier, at least on your healer. Even if you don't have the Scumbag Slayer, the good news is that once you defeat this boss, you will get yourself your very own Scumbag Slayer. Which obviously isn't actually useful now the boss is already dead, but hey. And before you go down to floor number 7, do make sure you take the teleporter here on the left-hand side, which will take you back to the first floor so you can save game without having to backtrack manually. And then you can just simply teleport all the way back down to floor number 6. Once we have saved the game, now it is time to go down those stairs to floor number 7. As we can see, floor number 7 has a bunch of different chests. The ones worth noting are the Phantom Slayer, which we can get a second one of these just over here to the left-hand side. We will need to go through a fake illusionary wall. There's also going to be another pair of bunny shoes just after we defeat the boss, so if you want another pair of those, I would recommend picking those up. And most importantly, all the way over to the right-hand side, we're going to see the Flawed Orb. Now, the Flawed Orb is the item we actually need to advance to the boss. So that is exactly where we're going to be heading first. To get there, we do need to walk all the way around the map, so go all the way to the top, then round to the right, then just below the chest where the Flawed Orb is, there's actually going to be another fake wall. That means we can walk straight through this wall and we'll be in the room. Open up the chest in front of the statue and we're going to get the Flawed Orb. Now the Flawed Orb by itself does not actually open the boss door. What we need to do is go into the crafting menu with any of our characters. It doesn't really matter what level the skill is on. And inside crafting, we want to select the Flawed Orb. This will turn it into another Orb of Fire. The Orb of Fire is actually what we want to insert in the outer to be able to open the door. Once we have crafted the Orb of Fire, we want to continue advancing through here until we eventually get back near to the start of the floor. Then head all the way north again until we get to the room with the outer where we actually need to insert the Orb of Fire. Once we insert the Orb of Fire, the boss room will open. And this is going to be another Mithril Eater. This is going to be similar to the one we fought back in the caves on the second planet. This boss has 700,000 health, but he doesn't actually move. If you remember correctly, they just accumulate a certain amount of damage, and then they'll release it as a sort of a shockwave and damage all of our team. So the best way to do this is sort of just attack, wail on him until he does the pain release, then back away and try to stop attacking for a bit until he can heal up, and then go back in and do this continuously. Though honestly, if you are a high enough level, you can stagger him quite easily and sort of just drain his health down before he gets a chance to do it once or twice. So that is it for defeating this boss. We will get the Mind Healer Staff. Remember to pick up the bunny shoes after the boss fight if you do wish to get those. And now it is time to move down to floor number 8. The 8th floor is very short if we want it to be, however there are a lot of optional chests that we can go after that are kind of useful. For a start, we have another Seraphic Garb all the way over here to the right hand side through a fake wall. And all the way to the opposite side on the left hand side at the top, we have another Mind Healer if you want another one of those for your second mage. Other than that, there's another Scumbag Slayer. I don't know why you'd want 2 of those, but if you do, there's another one down there at the bottom right, and a bunch of money. As for what we actually have to do on this floor, simply go to the quest marker, and there'll be a statue, which you just need to feed food. You can just keep on feeding it different meals. It doesn't matter what you feed it, just keep on feeding it stuff until eventually Puffy will pop out from behind the statue, and this will mean the door to the boss is open. The boss is going to be another Elysian Slug with 900,000 health, and it's resistant to fire, water, wind, and earth. So this thing is definitely quite tanky, and you need to be careful because these things can eat you, and when they spit you out, they have a chance of petrifying you, they can paralyze you, and they can poison you. So you definitely either want to be resistant to these things, or at least have enough cures to deal with them in this fight. Once we defeat the slug, we'll get a gelatin steak, and it is time to move on to the 9th floor. On floor number 9, we can actually find the best boots in the game, which are the Valiant boots. So as soon as we enter, we want to go to the right and then head up north through a fake wall. And this is where we'll find the Valiant boots. They increase your movement speed the same as the bunny shoes, however they give you way more defense stat than the bunny shoes do. That's the only chest really worth getting on this floor. Over to the left hand side, we do have another teleporter back to the first floor. So go ahead and activate that, go back to the first floor, save the game, and then return. Then simply continue progressing through the floor until you get to the stairs that head down to the 10th floor. There's nothing really tricky about this floor, there's not even a boss fight yet. There will be a boss spawning on this floor a little bit later on, but we'll explain that when the time comes. There is, however, a small off chance that if you did happen to get the Holy Sword Farewell from the Santa's boots, which is very, very rare, the boss may already spawn in on your first visit to this floor. But chances are you won't have that weapon until we defeat the boss in floor 12, so you shouldn't have to worry about that. Floor number 10 has an insane amount of really good items in the chest, so just checking out here, the top left we have another pair of bunny shoes if you need it, and another mind healer. We can also find Meteor Swarm through this fake wall at the top left, which is going to be Celine's ultimate attack, so if you're using her, definitely go and pick that up. In the right center room, we have another Ring of Might if you need it. Definitely pick up the 2 Valkyrie boots we can see here, as these are going to be the female version of the Valiant boots, which increase the movement speed by 100%, but have way better defense than the bunny shoes. Also, another pair of Valiant boots. So after this floor, definitely have all of your female characters with Valkyrie boots and your male characters with the Valiant boots. All the way near the top of the floor, we can find yet another battle suit, which you probably don't need anymore at this point, but if you do, there's another one there. And a whopping 3 million, which is a lot, so definitely pick that chest up as well. Anyway, the way this floor works is there's going to be a panel here in the first room, and each one of these panels represents one of the rooms on the floor. And we can temporarily unlock each of the rooms by stepping on the panel it represents back here. However, we can only unlock a maximum of 5 rooms at a time, so you can plan this accordingly to go after whichever chest you want, and when you need to reset the panels, simply go back to the previous floor, then come back down the stairs and the panels will have reset. For the purpose of the video, these are the panels you need to step on if you want to go straight for the boss fight, but like I said, I definitely would recommend stopping by and grabbing some of these useful chests on this floor if you've got the time. As for the boss, it's going to be another Geo Guardian. The Geo Guardian is going to have 1,200,000 health. And honestly, other than that, it doesn't really have anything too interesting. Just make sure you focus on breaking the shields on this one, as it has a pretty powerful defense once it takes a certain amount of damage. Also, very important note, before you get to this boss fight, make sure you're healing not only your health, but your MP as well. As going through some of these sketchy red rooms, you're actually going to be draining your health and your MP. So you don't want any surprises going into this fight with just 1 health left on all of your characters. By defeating him, you will get the Valiant shield, which is probably the best shield in the game for Claude, so make sure you stick that on him. And now it is time to move on to the 11th floor. Floor number 11, as you can see, is very, very short. The chest on the right-hand side has a million full, and the one on the left just has an ooze cocktail. This floor pretty much just consists of the boss fight against the Dragon Tyrant, which I would definitely recommend to come prepared with Petrification Resistance, as he has a breath attack that can petrify your entire team, so definitely equip as many Petrification Resistances as you can. The Dragon Tyrant is going to have 1,300,000 health. You definitely want to save game before this one, as he does do a hefty amount of damage. Once you defeat the boss, however, then you encounter a door that we can't go through. To open this door, we actually need to go back to the entrance of the entire maze on floor number 1. You can get back to floor 1 by using the teleporter on floor number 9, or if you decided to buy a Jewel of the Frog from the Santa shop in floor 6, I believe it was, they can teleport you right back to the start. When you approach the entrance, you better choose which of your companions you want to come with you. Here you can only take 1 companion with you. Now that it's just the 2 of you in the party, you want to return all the way back to where we fought the dragon on floor number 11, and now if we interact with the door, we will be able to go through to floor number 12. Floor number 12 also is very short, only has 4 chests. On the right hand side, we can get yet another battle suit and some more bunny shoes if you need any more of those for whatever reason. And on the left hand side, we are going to get the Valkyrie's bracelet, which is really, really good for Chisato. This room again is going to consist of just one boss fight, and that's pretty much it. This is going to be against Phoenix. Obviously, the downside is that we're going to have to fight this boss with just the 2 characters we decided to bring from the previous floor. The most obvious strat for this would obviously just be to bring the character that does the most damage along with a healer, and then just deal as much damage as you can as fast as you possibly can. However, personally, I decided to go for the blood armor strat on this. Pretty much just stick the blood armor on Chisato, along with the Phantom Slayer that recharges 50% of the damage it's dealing anyway, so she'll constantly be recharging the health she's losing by the blood armor, and that makes this fight extremely easy. Even if your other character dies, you can just pretty much just solo it with her if you wish to. It's also worth noting that the Phoenix is completely immune to fire attacks and is resistant to wind attacks. For defeating the Phoenix, we'll get the Holy Sword Farewell, which is a pretty powerful weapon for Claude. Now that we've defeated this boss, I would definitely recommend going all the way back down to the entrance of the maze to make sure you get your full team back before advancing any further. Once you've got your whole squad back and saved the game, take the teleporter on the right back to floor number 9. Now, if we remember correctly, floor number 9 didn't have a boss the first time we came through here. However, now that we have the Holy Sword Farewell, we'll notice there's an event marker on the coffin just near the entrance to floor number 10. This is going to start another boss fight with the Sorcerer and 3 Dreamcasters. The strat for this one is simply focus the Dreamcasters with everything you've got at the start to get rid of those as quickly as possible, as they do slow down your team a lot. And then just wail on the Sorcerer. For defeating this boss, we get another one of Claude's weapons, which is the Demon Sword Levantine. This is potentially the best weapon. It used to be in the original game anyway. It has 3000 attack, and its attack increases as HP decreases. However, now we have the Holy Sword Farewell as well as the Demon Sword Levantine. We can actually open the door to go from floor number 12 onto floor 13, which is going to be the final floor. So now we find ourselves on floor 13, which is the final floor of this dungeon at last. There are only going to be 3 chests in this floor, and one we can't actually get until after defeating the final boss. The one on the left is the Valiant Mail, which I would 100% recommend picking up. In fact, I would say it's not necessary, but definitely recommended for this boss fight if you're using Claude. And then on the right-hand side chest, we have a Valiant Shield, which isn't as important, but still a very good item to have. Then finally, the Archangel's Bracelet we won't be able to get until after defeating the boss. So as soon as we start walking forwards, we'll notice there's another teleporter back to the first floor, so definitely take this, go and save your game again, then return back to floor 13. Also, if you're just paying attention to the map we showed you at the start of the floor, I marked off where switch number 1 is and switch number 2. Either way, you can see them on your map in-game when you get close. So we're going to go all the way over to the right-hand side one first, go up here, press the switch, and then we're going to backtrack all the way over to the left-hand side and press the second switch. They're really not hidden at all, they're in plain sight, so you shouldn't have any trouble finding those whatsoever. Once you've pressed both switches to open the door to the final boss, we're going to go through that center door, and it is now time to fight Gabriela Celesta. This is a pretty powerful boss. It's definitely going to be the most powerful thing you've fought up until now, with a whopping almost 2 million health, as well as absorbing light damage, so you need to be careful what weapon you're using. But by far, the most annoying thing about this boss is the attack where it sort of spins and moves around the arena really fast, and while she's doing this, you really can't hit her. When she's doing that attack, the best thing you can do is micromanage your team and heal manually as much as you can, as the damage output on this boss is really, really high. If you are using Claude as your main character, definitely put on the Valiant Mail we just picked up from this room. Everyone else ideally should be wearing seraphic garbs. If you are having a tough time and are struggling to defeat this boss, you can always go back to the Bloody Armor trick. The Bloody Armor trick is pretty straightforward. Simply put on the Bloody Armor as well as a weapon that has at least 50% health steal. So with Chisato, we could go with the Phantom Slayer and the Bloody Armor. The Ring of Light Speed, obviously a great addition, as well as the Berserker Ring to deal double damage. Then in tactics, make sure you put the strategy of your healer to focus on healing allies pretty much continuously. And even then, I would manually go in and heal with items and stuff when you get the chance to. But when you do finally prevail and defeat her, you will be getting the Silver Trumpet, which is the secret instrument you need to summon another secret boss elsewhere. And then you can also pick up the Archangel's Bracelet from the chest behind. And with that, congratulations, you have now finished the Maze of Tribulations. I hope you did enjoy this video, guys. If you did, don't forget that thumbs up button, subscribe for more content coming very soon, and we'll see you next time.